The morning started like any other at Jefferson High School. Students walked through the halls with coffee cups and tired eyes. Teachers prepared their lessons. The bell rang at exactly 8 o'clock, and everyone moved to their first class of the day. But this was not a normal day. This was the day the aliens came. Katie Morgan sat in the back row of her history class. She was 17 years old, small for her age, with brown hair tied in a simple ponytail. She wore old jeans and a faded sweater. Nothing about her appearance suggested she was special in any way. She liked it that way. The classroom door opened, and Mr. Danny Cole walked in with 3 visitors behind him. The students stopped their conversations immediately. They had known the aliens were coming. The whole world had known for weeks. But seeing them in person was something else entirely. The first alien through the door was Ambassador Rin. She was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large, dark eyes. She moved gracefully and nodded politely to the students. Behind her came 2 soldiers in black armor. And behind them came Warlord Crethson. Crethson was 7 feet tall. He had 4 arms and skin the color of rust. His face was hard and cruel, with scars running across his cheeks. He wore the uniform of the Volturi Empire's military command, decorated with medals from 100 battles. When he looked at the students, his yellow eyes showed nothing but contempt. "Class," Mr. Cole said, trying to keep his voice steady, "please welcome our guests from the Volturi Empire. They are here as part of the Galactic Council's cultural exchange program." The students mumbled their greetings. A few waved nervously. Crethson did not respond. He simply looked around the room like a predator studying prey. Ambassador Rin spoke first. Her voice was soft and pleasant. "Thank you for having us. We are here to learn about your species and to help determine if Earth is ready to join the Galactic Council. We look forward to understanding your culture and your history." Mr. Cole smiled with relief. "Wonderful. Well, today we were actually going to discuss human military history. Perhaps you would like to observe?" "Yes," Crethson said. It was the first word he had spoken, and his voice was deep like thunder. "Show us how humans fight. I am curious to see what passes for warfare among your kind." There was an insult hidden in those words, but Mr. Cole chose to ignore it. He began his presentation, talking about ancient battles, world wars, and the evolution of human combat. He spoke about strategy and courage and sacrifice. The students listened, though their eyes kept drifting to the massive warlord standing at the side of the room. Crethson grew more restless as the presentation continued. His upper arms crossed over his chest, while his lower arms hung at his sides. Finally, he interrupted. "This is what you consider impressive?" he asked. "Fighting each other with sticks and stones? Killing your own species over patches of dirt?" Mr. Cole paused. "War is not something we are proud of, but it is part of our history, and it shaped who we are." "It shaped you into weaklings," Crethson said. "The Volturi conquered 100 worlds before your species learned to make fire. We have fought enemies that would drive your entire planet mad with fear. And yet you stand here, talking about your little wars as if they matter." The classroom was silent. No one knew what to say. Ben Harper, sitting 2 seats away from Katie, looked down at his desk. Claire Dawson stared at the warlord with anger in her eyes, but kept her mouth shut. Ambassador Rin stepped forward. "Warlord, perhaps we should—" "No," Crethson said, raising one of his hands. "I have seen enough. These humans are not ready for the council. They are too weak, too soft. They would be crushed by the first challenge they faced." Mr. Cole's face turned red. "With respect, Warlord, you have not seen what humans are capable of." Crethson laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. "Then show me. I will make this simple. I have soldiers with me. The weakest among them could defeat any human in single combat. If one of your students can prove me wrong, I will personally recommend Earth to the council. The students exchanged looks of shock and fear. Fight a Volturi soldier? That was impossible. The aliens were bigger, stronger, and faster than any human. They had been bred for war across countless generations. Mr. Cole shook his head. I cannot allow that. These are children. This is a school, not an arena. Then I have my answer, Crethson said with a cruel smile. Humanity is exactly what I thought. Cowards who hide behind excuses. The insult hung in the air. Katie had been quiet this whole time, watching and listening. She had seen the way Crethson looked at her classmates. She had heard the mockery in his voice. And she had felt something stir inside her, something her grandmother had planted there many years ago. She raised her hand. Everyone turned to look at her. Ben's eyes went wide. Claire shook her head slightly, as if begging her not to speak. Mr. Cole looked confused. Yes, Katie? He asked. Katie lowered her hand and stood up slowly. She was small, barely 5'4", and she had to look up to meet Crethson's eyes. But her voice was calm and steady. You said your weakest soldier could beat any human, she said. What about your strongest? The room went completely still. Even the Volturi soldiers looked surprised. Ambassador Rin raised an eyebrow. Mr. Cole opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. Crethson stared at Katie for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was different from before. Not cruel, but genuinely amused. You? He asked. You want to fight my strongest warrior? A small female child wants to challenge the champion of the Volturi Empire. Katie did not smile. She did not flinch. She simply nodded. Yes, she said. I do. Crethson's laughter faded. He studied her face, looking for signs of fear or doubt. He found none. This interested him more than anything else he had seen on Earth. Very well, little human, he said. You will have your fight. And when you lose, your planet will learn its place in the galaxy. Katie sat back down in her chair. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She had been waiting for this moment her whole life. She just had not known it until now. The challenge had been issued. The answer had been given. And everything was about to change. The news spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Within an hour, every student in Jefferson High knew what Katie had done. Within 2 hours, it was on every news channel in the country. By the end of the day, the entire world was talking about the small human girl who had challenged the Volturi, Empire's greatest champion. Some called her brave. Others called her crazy. Most people did not know what to think. Katie sat in the principal's office with Mr. Cole and her legal guardian, her uncle Rick. Rick was a quiet man with gray hair and worried eyes. He had raised Katie since she was 7 years old, after her parents died in a car accident. He loved her more than anything in the world, and right now he looked terrified. You cannot do this, Rick said, his voice shaking. Katie, you are just a kid. These aliens, they are warriors. They have been fighting since before humans existed. I know what they are, Katie said calmly. Then why? Rick asked. Why would you volunteer for this? Let someone else do it. Let the military handle it. Let anyone else. Katie looked at her uncle with soft eyes. She understood his fear. She knew how much he had already lost. But she also knew something he did not. There is no one else, she said. You saw how they looked at us. Like we were insects. Like we did not matter. Someone has to show them that we do. Mr. Cole leaned forward in his chair. Katie, I respect what you are trying to do. But this is not a classroom debate. This is a fight. A real fight against an opponent who has never lost. Gorak the Crusher has killed people in the arena. He has broken warriors twice your size. I know, Katie said again. Before anyone could argue further, the door opened. Warlord Krethson entered the room, followed by Ambassador Rin. The small office suddenly felt very crowded. Kreth single quote Zan looked at Katie with those cold yellow eyes. I have come to discuss the terms of our agreement. There is no agreement, Rick said quickly. She is a minor. She cannot consent to this. She already has, Krethsan replied. In front of witnesses. According to Valtteri law, a challenge once issued cannot be withdrawn. If she refuses to fight now, Earth will be marked as a world of cowards. Your council application will be denied for 100 years. Rick's face went pale. Mr. Cole stood up from his chair but did not know what to say. Ambassador Rin stepped forward, her voice gentle. There may be a compromise. The fight does not need to be lethal. We can establish rules. No killing strikes. The match ends when one fighter submits or is unable to continue. This is still dangerous, but it reduces the risk. Krethzan made a sound of disgust but did not object. Fine, but I will add my own condition. If the human loses, Earth's council application is denied for 50 years. Not 100 as a gesture of mercy, but 50 years of knowing that your species was judged and found wanting. The room was silent. 50 years. An entire generation would grow up under that shadow. Katie stood up from her chair. She was so small compared to the aliens in the room, but she did not seem afraid. I accept, she said. Rick grabbed her arm. Katie, please. Think about what you are doing. Katie placed her hand over his. I have been thinking about it my whole life, Uncle Rick. I just did not know it until now. She looked at Krethson. When do we fight? 3 days, the Warlord said. Gorak arrives tomorrow. He will need time to prepare. Not much time, of course. Defeating a human child will not require much effort. Katie nodded. 3 days. I will be ready. Krethzan studied her for a moment, then turned and left the room. Ambassador Rin gave Katie a long, curious look before following him out. When they were gone, Rick collapsed into a chair. His hands covered his face. Mr. Cole put a hand on his shoulder, but said nothing. There was nothing to say. That night, Katie went somewhere she had not visited in a long time. The cemetery was quiet and dark, lit only by the moon above. She walked past rows of headstones until she found the one she was looking for. Margaret Morgan. Beloved grandmother, warrior, teacher, friend. Katie sat down on the grass in front of the grave. She did not cry. Her grandmother had taught her that tears were for after the battle, not before. Hey, Grandma, she whispered. I guess you probably know what I did today. You always said I had too much of your stubbornness in me. I guess you were right. She pulled her knees up to her chest and looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, a Volturi warship carried the strongest fighter their empire had ever produced. And in 3 days, Katie would have to face him. I remember everything you taught me, she continued. All those mornings in the garage. All those bruises and sore muscles. All those lessons about never giving up, about finding strength when you have nothing left. I did not understand why you pushed me so hard. I was just a kid. But I understand now. Her grandmother had been Special Forces, one of the first women to serve in combat operations. After she retired, she had devoted her life to training Katie, not because she wanted her granddaughter to be a soldier, but because she knew the world was dangerous and she wanted Katie to be able to protect herself. I am scared, Katie admitted to the silent gravestone. I know I am not supposed to say that, but I am. This guy, Gorak, he is a monster. He is twice my size and 10 times my strength. Every logical part of my brain is telling me that I am going to lose. She paused and took a deep breath. But you taught me that logic is not everything. You taught me that humans are different. We are not the biggest or the fastest or the strongest, but we have something else. We have heart. We have will. We refuse to stay down no matter how many times we get knocked down." Katie stood up and brushed the grass from her jeans. She placed her hand on top of the gravestone, feeling the cold stone beneath her fingers. "I am going to fight him, Grandma. I am going to show the whole galaxy what humans are made of. And whether I win or lose, I am going to make you proud." She walked away from the grave without looking back. The moon followed her home. Tomorrow, the monster would arrive. The day after that, the world would be watching. And on the third day, Katie Morgan would step into the arena and fight for the future of her entire species. She was ready. She had been ready her whole life. The school gymnasium had been transformed into something unrecognizable. Valtori engineers had worked through the night to construct a proper arena. Metal walls surrounded a circular fighting space. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, turning the room as bright as day. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting the event to every corner of the galaxy. Katie stood in a small room behind the arena, waiting for her name to be called. She wore simple black workout clothes and running shoes. No armor, no protection. Just her and whatever she had learned in her 17 years of life. Ben Harper sat with her, his leg bouncing nervously. "You can still back out," he said. "No one would blame you." Katie shook her head. "Yes, they would. And they should. I made a promise." "A promise to who?" "To that alien jerk. He does not deserve your promise." "Not to him," Katie said quietly. "To everyone who has ever been told they were too small, too weak, too young. I made a promise to show them that those things do not matter." Ben did not know what to say to that. He just sat there, looking at his best friend, wondering if this was the last real conversation they would ever have. A Volturi soldier appeared at the door. "It is time." Katie stood up. She hugged Ben quickly and followed the soldier out of the room. The noise hit her like a wave. Thousands of people filled the stands, humans and aliens alike. They cheered and shouted in a dozen different languages. Giant screens showed Katie's face as she walked toward the arena, making her look larger than she felt. On the other side of the arena, a massive door began to open. The crowd grew louder. And then Gorek the Crusher stepped into the light. He was enormous, 8 feet tall, with shoulders as wide as a car. His skin was dark green and covered in old scars. His arms were like tree trunks, ending in hands that could crush stone. He wore no shirt, showing off muscles that seemed impossible. His face was flat and brutal, with small red eyes that fixed immediately on Katie. He raised all 4 of his arms and roared. The Volturi in the crowd roared back. It was a sound of pure violence, of centuries of conquest and bloodshed. Katie felt it shake through her bones. She stepped into the arena without making a sound. Warlord Kretzen stood on a raised platform above the fighting space. He raised his hand, and the crowd fell silent. "Today, we witness a challenge," he announced. "The human female has requested to face our champion. She claims the humans are worthy of respect. Today, we will learn the truth." He lowered his hand. "Begin." Gorek charged immediately. He crossed the distance between them in 3 massive strides, his fist swinging down like a hammer. Katie moved. She was not where the fist landed. She was 3 feet to the left, already turning, already watching. Gorek spun and attacked again. Punch after punch, each one powerful enough to shatter concrete. Katie dodged them all. She ducked under swings, stepped around kicks, twisted away from grabs. She never stopped moving, never stayed in one place for more than a second. The Volturi crowd began to boo. "She runs like a coward," someone shouted. "Fight back, human." "Show us something?" Katie ignored them. She was not running. She was learning. Her grandmother had taught her this strategy years ago. When you face a stronger opponent, you do not try to match their strength. You watch. You study. You find their patterns and their weaknesses. Every fighter has a rhythm, and once you learn that rhythm, you can predict what comes next. Gorak was strong but predictable. His attacks came in combinations of 3. Left, right, uppercut. Kick, grab, slam. He always led with his lower right arm. He always shifted his weight to his back foot before a big swing. Katie stored all of this information in her mind, building a map of how he fought. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Gorak was breathing harder now. His attacks were slowing down. He had expected to end this fight in seconds, not minutes. The human girl was supposed to be easy. She was supposed to fall with the first punch. Instead, she danced around him like Smoke Dot in the stands. Mr. Cole leaned forward. "She is tiring him out," he said to Rick, who sat beside him with his hands clenched. "She is making him waste his energy." Rick shook his head. "She cannot keep this up forever. Sooner or later, she has to fight back." As if she had heard him, Katie suddenly changed. Gorak threw another punch, and instead of dodging, she moved toward him. Her palm struck his elbow at the exact right angle, redirecting his force away from her. Her other hand jabbed his ribs, hitting a spot where the muscle was thin. Gorak grunted in surprise. It was the first time he had felt pain in years. Katie was already moving again, circling behind him. Her knee drove into the back of his leg, targeting the joint. It was not enough to bring him down, but it made him stumble. Made him doubt. The human crowd began to cheer. They did not understand what they were seeing, but they knew something had changed. The little girl was not just surviving anymore. She was fighting back. Gorak roared with anger and swung wildly. Katie ducked under the attack and delivered 3 quick strikes to his side. Each one hit a pressure point her grandmother had shown her long ago. Each one sent a jolt of pain through his nervous system. Crescent watched from above, and for the first time, his smile began to fade. This was not what he had expected. This human child was not supposed to be a threat. She was supposed to be an example, a demonstration of human weakness. But she was still standing, and she was starting to win. Gorak caught her with a glancing blow, sending her spinning across the arena floor. The crowd gasped. Katie hit the ground hard and rolled. Pain exploded through her shoulder. She could feel bruises forming already, but she got up. She always got up. She looked at Gorak, who was panting now, confused and angry. Blood trickled from a cut on his side where her strikes had broken the skin. For the first time in the fight, Katie smiled. "Okay," she said, her voice calm despite the pain. "My turn." Katie moved like water. She flowed around Gorak's attacks, finding the spaces between his punches, the gaps in his defense. Every time he swung, she was somewhere else. Every time she attacked, she hit exactly where it hurt most. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, speaking words from training sessions years ago. Humans are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. But we are the most adaptable species in the galaxy. We learn. We adjust. We find a way. Gorak threw a heavy punch with his upper right arm. Katie stepped inside the attack, too close for the blow to land properly. Her elbow drove into his stomach. Her knee struck the side of his leg. A quick palm strike hit his lower jaw, snapping his head to the side. 3 hits in less than a second. Each one precise. Each one painful. The champion staggered backward, confusion written across his brutal face. This was not how fights were supposed to go. He was Gorak the Crusher. He had defeated hundreds of opponents across a dozen worlds. Warriors twice this girl's size had fallen before him. Soldiers with decades of training had broken under his fists. But this small human was still standing, and she was making him look foolish. He roared and attacked with all four arms at once, trying to overwhelm her with speed and power. Katie dropped low, sliding between his legs as his fist passed over her head. She rose behind him and kicked the back of his knee. His leg buckled. For the first time in 200 fights, Gorak fell to one knee. The human crowd exploded with cheers. People were standing, screaming, crying. They did not fully understand what they were seeing, but they knew it was something special. This small girl from Jefferson High School was fighting the monster, and she was winning dot in the Valtori section of the crowd. The reaction was different. Silence, shock, a few whispered curses. Warlord Krethson gripped the railing in front of him so hard that the metal bent under his fingers. Ambassador Rin stood beside him, her expression thoughtful. "She is remarkable," she said quietly. "I have never seen a species adapt so quickly to an opponent." "She is lucky," Krethson growled. "Nothing more. Gorak will end this soon." But even as he spoke the words, doubt crept into his voice. Gorak rose from his knee, his red eyes burning with rage. He had stopped underestimating his opponent. He had stopped playing games. Now he fought with everything he had, using techniques he had learned on battlefield planets, in death matches across the galaxy. The next 2 minutes were the most dangerous of Katie's life. Gorak's attacks came faster and smarter. He feinted with one arm and struck with another. He used his size to corner her against the arena walls. He grabbed at her legs, trying to take the fight to the ground where his weight would crush her. Katie took hits. A glancing blow to her ribs made her gasp. A kick clipped her thigh and sent numbness spreading down her leg. A backhand caught her shoulder and spun her around, but she kept moving. She kept fighting. She kept getting up. "Stay down," Gorak snarled. "Accept your defeat. You have fought well for a human. There is no shame in submission." Katie wiped blood from her lip and shook her head. "I cannot do that." "Why? Why do you keep fighting? You are beaten. Your body is failing. What do you hope to accomplish?" Katie thought about her grandmother. She thought about her parents, who she barely remembered. She thought about Uncle Rick in the stands, terrified but proud. She thought about Ben, who had stayed by her side even when everyone else called her crazy. She thought about all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible odds and refused to quit. The ones who had crawled through deserts, climbed mountains, crossed oceans, and walked on the moon. The ones who had been told they could not do something and did it anyway. "You want to know why I keep fighting?" she said, her voice steady despite the pain. "Because that is what humans do. We do not know how to quit. It is not in our nature. You can knock us down 100 times, 1,000 times, and we will keep getting up. That is who we are. That is what you are really fighting." Gorak hesitated. There was something in her eyes that disturbed him. Not fear, not desperation. Something else. Something he had never seen before. Katie attacked. She moved faster than she had all fight, pushing past her exhaustion, ignoring the pain screaming through her body. Her fist struck his throat. Her foot swept his ankle. Her elbow crashed into his temple. Gorak stumbled. Katie followed. More strikes, each one targeting a weakness she had identified during her defensive phase. His joints. His pressure points. The spots where his armor of muscle was thinnest. The champion swung wildly, trying to create distance, but Katie was too close. She climbed his body like a mountain, using his own arms as handholds. Her legs wrapped around his neck. Her hands locked into position. It was a chokehold. Simple, but effective. Her grandmother had taught it to her when she was 12 years old. Size does not matter if you cut off the blood to the brain, she had explained. Every creature needs oxygen. Every creature can be put to sleep. Gorak grabbed at Katie with all four arms, trying to pull her off. but she held on with everything she had. Her arms shook with effort. Her vision blurred from her own exhaustion. She could feel her grip weakening, feel her body begging her to let go. She did not let go. "Submit," she said through gritted teeth. "It is over." Gorak's movements grew slower. His arms fell to his sides. His eyes began to close. In another few seconds, he would lose consciousness. With his last bit of strength, the champion of the Volturi Empire did something he had never done before. He tapped the ground with his hand. Once, twice, 3 times. He submitted. Katie released her hold and fell to the arena floor. She lay on her back, staring at the lights above, gasping for breath. Every part of her body hurt. She was not sure she could stand even if she wanted to, but she had won. Somehow, impossibly, she had won. The crowd was screaming. The cameras were flashing. The galaxy was watching. And Katie Morgan, 17 years old, student at Jefferson High School, had just changed history. The silence lasted only a moment. Then the arena erupted. Humans screamed and cheered and cried. They hugged each other, strangers becoming friends in an instant of shared joy. The sound was so loud that it shook the walls, so powerful that it could be heard blocks away. It was the sound of a species celebrating something they had never truly believed was possible. Katie lay on the arena floor, unable to move. Her body had given everything it had, and now there was nothing left. She felt hands lifting her gently, carrying her away from the fighting space. She saw faces swimming above her, Ben crying and laughing at the same time. Mr. Cole looking like he had witnessed a miracle. Uncle Rick holding her hand and whispering that he was proud. So proud. Medical teams from both species rushed to help. Valtteri doctors examined Gorak, who was slowly regaining consciousness. Human doctors surrounded Katie, checking her injuries, speaking in quick, worried voices about possible fractures and internal bleeding. But Katie was smiling. It hurt to smile, but she did it anyway. On his platform above the arena, Warlord Kretson stood absolutely still. His face showed no emotion. The Volturi soldiers around him waited nervously, unsure what their commander would do. He had just watched his greatest champion lose to a human child. The honor of the Empire had been challenged, and the Empire had lost. Slowly, Kretson descended from the platform. The crowd grew quiet as he walked toward Katie. Humans moved aside fearfully, wondering if he had come to seek revenge. The soldiers tensed, ready for violence. Kretson stopped in front of Katie, who was now sitting up with help from Uncle Rick. He looked down at her, his yellow eyes unreadable. "You have won," he said. His voice carried across the silent arena. "Against all probability, against all logic, you have defeated the champion of the Volturi Empire." Katie met his gaze. "Yes, I made a promise," Kretson continued. "If a human could beat my strongest warrior, I would recommend your species to the Galactic Council. I am a warlord. I have burned cities and conquered worlds, but I have never broken my word. I will not start today." He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Earth will receive my recommendation. The humans have proven themselves worthy of respect." The crowd cheered again, but Kretson raised his hand for silence. He was not finished. "I came to your world expecting to find weakness," he said. "I expected soft creatures who had never truly been tested. I was wrong. Your species is small. Your bodies are fragile. By every measure we use, you should be nothing. But I watched this child stand against our champion. I watched her take blow after blow that would have killed warriors of other species. And I watched her refuse to fall." He looked at Katie with something new in his eyes. Not contempt, not anger. It took her a moment to recognize it. Respect. "There is a fire in humans," Kretson said. A stubborn, burning thing that refuses to die no matter how hard the universe tries to put it out. We Volturi have conquered many species. Strong species, intelligent species, dangerous species. But I do not think we could conquer you. Not because you would defeat us in battle, but because you would never stop fighting. You would never surrender. And eventually, over years or decades or centuries, you would find a way to win. He turned and walked away. The Volturi delegation followed him, leaving the arena in silence. Later that night, Ambassador Rin visited Katie in the hospital. The doctors had confirmed that she had no serious injuries, just bruises and exhaustion that would heal with time. She was sitting up in bed, eating pudding, and watching news coverage of her fight. Every channel on Earth was showing the same thing. Her face was everywhere. People were calling her a hero, a champion, the girl who saved the planet. It felt strange and uncomfortable, like wearing clothes that did not fit. Rin entered quietly and sat in the chair beside the bed. "How do you feel?" "Sore," Katie admitted. "But alive. You did something remarkable today. You should be proud." Katie shrugged. "I just did what I had to do. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Rin said gently. "They would not have. That is what makes your species so interesting." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "May I tell you a secret?" Katie nodded. "The Council has been watching humanity for a long time. We have seen your wars and your cruelty. We have seen how you treat each other and your planet. Many members believed you were too dangerous, too unstable to join us. Kretzen was sent here as a final test, but not the test you think." "What do you mean?" "We did not expect you to win the fight," Rin explained. "We expected you to lose. What we were testing was how you would lose. Would you show courage? Would you show honor? Would you demonstrate the qualities that matter beyond physical strength? Kretzen's challenge was designed to reveal the truth of your character." Katie thought about this. "So if I had lost but fought bravely, Earth still would have been recommended?" "Perhaps. It would have depended on how you conducted yourself. But you did something better. You won. Not through luck or tricks, but through skill and heart and the refusal to accept defeat. You showed us something we have rarely seen in the galaxy." Rin smiled. "You showed us hope." She stood to leave, but stopped at the door. "The footage of your fight has been seen by billions of beings across 1,000 worlds. It is being studied in military academies and discussed in diplomatic halls. You have changed how the galaxy sees humanity. That is no small thing, Katie Morgan." After Rin left, Katie turned off the television and lay back on her pillow. She thought about her grandmother, about the years of training, about the promise she had made at the gravestone. She thought about her parents, who she barely remembered, and wondered if they were watching from somewhere. She fell asleep with a smile on her face. 2 weeks later, Katie returned to Jefferson High School. She walked through the halls like she always had, quiet and unassuming. Students stared at her. Teachers smiled at her. The principal had offered her special treatment, anything she wanted. She had refused everything. She just wanted to be a normal student again. Ben met her at her locker. "So how does it feel to be the most famous person on Earth?" Katie grabbed her history textbook and shrugged. "I still have homework to do. Mr. Cole is giving a test on Friday." Ben laughed. "You saved the human race and you are worried about a history test?" Katie closed her locker and looked at her friend. "The fight is over. Life goes on. That is how it works." She walked to class, just another student at just another school. But somewhere across the galaxy, in training halls and war rooms and government chambers, aliens were watching footage of her fight on repeat. And they were learning to fear the species that refused to stay down.